How's this thing work? There's the on switch. Nope. Okay, so Pokemon eventually got to the United States in 1998. It got to Japan in 96, and it was a long journey to get even there. Wow. Yeah, actually it began development in 1990 when Satoshi Tajiri, the creator of Pokemon, started having these ideas about one of his pastimes he had when he was a child. See, back in his day, he actually collected bugs in the suburban area where he lived in Japan, and he noticed as time went on, it became more and more urbanized, and kids didn't really collect bugs anymore. I mean, you know, technology advanced, they had video games to play, and so when he saw the original Game Boy, which is this clunker right here, he thought, wow, and I think he thought about the Game Link cable and thought, wow, wouldn't it be cool if you could like trade your little bugs or whatever. And so all these ideas began circulating in his head. He started thinking about this, about monsters battling and being traded. And that was one of the core concepts, was actually trading these collectible monsters or collectible insects that the ideas evolved from. So it actually took a couple times pitching it to Nintendo before they even decided to be okay to make the game. In 1990 he started working. It took 6 years for the game to finally come out in Japan. It took Shigeru Miyamoto, who of course is famous for Mario, Zelda, Star Fox, Pikmin, all sorts of huge Nintendo games to make the pitch and finally get the game rolling. Now, in Japan, it was red and green. Those were the first two to come out. Not red and blue. No, blue came later. The original red and green were actually not a game that we've ever played here in the United States. The red and green that came out were I wouldn't call it simpler, but the graphics weren't as good. The art was pretty bad. If you look at some of the Pokemon art from the game, like, you know, the Pokemon you'd see when you battle, they're pretty awful. I mean, you can look it up on Wikipedia or Google it or something. It's bad, believe me. A lot of them look cross-eyed for some reason. But anyway, so Red and Green came out in Japan in 1996, the original Red and Green, and they eventually sold millions. They had no idea it was going to be this popular. The creator didn't think it was going to be this popular. Nintendo didn't think it was going to be this popular, but it did. Part of what some people think the reason why is because there was the two games. You didn't have to have two. They're basically the same storyline, but you had to trade back and forth to collect all 150 monsters. So that's always been a core concept of Pokemon. It started at the beginning. But these games were so popular that they decided to make an additional game, Pokemon Blue, which had Blastoise on the cover, which kind of sounds like this, doesn't it? In fact, the Pokemon Blue, the one in Japan, was a updated version of Pokemon Red and Green. It had the same basic storyline, same basic monsters, same basic areas, but it improved some of the graphics. It fixed some of the glitches which are in the game. And if you remember the Red and Blue that came to the United States, think about how bad Red and Green must have been. It was not so good. So Pokemon Blue showed up. It was their third game, and what made it to the United States eventually, Red and Blue, these games, was basically the graphics and engine of the original Pokemon Blue and all the information and data from the original two games. So that's what made it to the United States. And even then, it's kind of a little different from anything else. So it's kind of a weird backstory of how Pokemon came to America. It came in 1998, 2 years after it got to Japan, which was a pretty long time. I mean, nobody saw this one coming. I didn't. I mean, I was a little kid. Maybe some of the adults with the internet, like the beginnings of the internet, knew. But so I subscribed to Nintendo Power, and I started getting this Pokemon Power, this little thing that came with it for like 6 months or something. So, started getting excited. I thought it was cool. I don't know. I mean, I got the game. It was awesome. Everybody loved it, and that's pretty much how it came to America. The cartoon came right before, pretty much right at the same time. Cartoons started showing up in syndication. I originally saw it on UPN for some reason. I mean, no one had, Kids WB hadn't picked it up yet. Cartoon Network hadn't picked it up yet. Nobody, I guess people weren't really sure if it was going to be huge or not. I mean, why would you think that? Some weird little Japanese game. I mean, the thing that's amazing about Pokemon is that it was so, I mean, it was so unique and so niche that it just worked. It's a weird RPG. Its graphics are not very good. They barely crammed all the information onto the game disc to create 150 Pokemon. So there's no battle animations, no anything. It's a pretty basic game. They don't even have as many stats as they have nowadays. And in fact, you couldn't trade between a Japanese version and an American version because they just didn't have the language built into the games. These games only have English in them. They can't have Japanese. They just don't have the memory space. So I mean, it's kind of amazing that this thing just blew up so big. So it came to America. It sold so many copies, and I'll continue the story from there when I talk about Pokemon Red and Blue in America. Thanks for watching. See you next time.